Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Folks, we could make a little display. Hare Krishna. So, in accordance with what Srila Prabhupada did, do you have another cassette in case we go over? Yeah. And Kasya brought some also. Yes, so you could set up a little display. Okay. Yeah, so in accordance with how Srila Prabhupada taught us, at the time of initiation ceremony, there should be 2 lectures or 1 lecture on 2 topics. The first topic is the importance of accepting a guru and the meaning of initiation. And the second topic is a discussion of the 10 offenses to be avoided in the matter of chanting the holy names of Krishna. Now it may seem strange that someone who's about to give initiation will speak about the importance of accepting a guru. It might seem that he's trying to do some personal propaganda like this. It will seem strange to people who don't know what the role of a guru is meant to be. That guru takes the role of master because of his intrinsic understanding of his position as servant. It doesn't take the role of a guru to become the false exploiter of others, but to take the position of the genuine servant of others, specifically by following the order of his own spiritual master, who teaches that disciples, they should train others, guide others in the matter of serving Krishna. So this is required. In America once, Srila Prabhupada, he was visiting one center, and as usual, the devotees were very adulating in their reception of Srila Prabhupada. And the mother of one of the devotees present said to Srila Prabhupada with some degree of wonder that these people, they worship you. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said in a matter-of-fact kind of way. That is our Vaishnava system. Just as I am worshipping my spiritual master, so my disciples also worship me. That is required. So this initiation is required to fulfill the purpose of life. Life means to serve Krishna. Anything else is living death, is zombie existence. That is the Jaiva Dharma, the intrinsic function of the soul to serve Krishna. It is as natural for the soul to serve Krishna as it is for the sun to rise in the east. Actually, it's even more natural, because when the creation is wound up, the sun ceases to exist and ceases. There is no east, there's no west, there's no sun, there's nothing. But the soul continues to exist, and Krishna continues to exist. And although the forgetful souls are unaware of their natural function of serving Krishna, that nevertheless remains their natural function. So it's a very unfortunate position for the conditioned souls that they are forgetting Krishna and trying to be happy in this material world, which is not possible. It's not possible to be happy in this material world, but only one can try to be happy. But there's no question of happiness outside of Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, out of the Asankhya Jivagan, Eta Brahmanda Bhari, Ananta Jivagan, out of the uncountable jivas that inhabit this universe, very, very few are awakened to Krishna consciousness. You see, even that when people first come to Krishna consciousness, generally they go very slowly, cautiously, not sure, because this material world is a place of cheating, and often people are they're a little afraid to come very close. They're afraid that this is maybe some other kind of cheating. And also because people may come slowly to Krishna consciousness because they have so many material attachments. And from the materialistic point of view, Krishna consciousness is a very extreme position. Krishna says, Sarvadhaman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. Just abandon all other activities and surrender to me only. In terms of, from a mundane perspective, this is fanaticism, fundamentalism, too much, extremism, unreasonable. Nevertheless, that is Krishna's demand. He's simply asking us to give up all those things which are detrimental to us, and to accept that which is for the only path which is for our benefit, which is to surrender to Him. So when one understands this is what is required, and is prepared to advance on that path of surrender to Krishna, then he requires to be initiated by a spiritual master, which is another totally unreasonable proposition from the conditioned soul's point of view, that one should surrender to a spiritual master. It seems like a very foolish thing to do. People are struggling for freedom. The Czech people felt very happy after so many years of Russian domination that then they got their freedom. So now you are free to express yourselves, freedom of speech. You are free to move around the world if you have enough money and you can get visas. You are free to drink Coca-Cola and all the other advantages of modern life. The people are fighting for freedom and giving their lives for freedom. And in Krishna consciousness we propose that whatever freedom you have, you give it up and surrender to Guru and Krishna. It seems like a foolish proposition. Why should one want to do that? This has to be understood very philosophically. Krishna consciousness is not based on blind faith, but on philosophical understanding. That if we analyze deeply, that means analyzing through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, then we'll find that the so-called freedom of this material world is not freedom at all. That as long as we do not surrender our intelligence to Krishna, then we have to surrender our intelligence to Maya. We have to accept some authority. Either we accept the authority of Krishna, or we accept the authority of some political leader, or we accept some philosopher as our guide, or we accept our own mind as our guide. So it's a matter of accepting Krishna's mind, or our own mind, or the minds of persons who are supposed to be great but who actually are not very great. And no one is free. Just like there was the hippie movement in the 1960s and 1970s. They wanted freedom. Freedom from societal conventions. For instance, those proscribing illicit sex. So they got freedom from the societal conventions, but then they became servants of their senses even more so than those who followed the societal convention. So taking to Krishna consciousness means understanding all these points and making an intelligent decision about who to serve, either to serve our mind and our senses, or to serve some other person's mind and senses, or to serve Krishna. Now the method to serve Krishna is through the medium of a bona fide Guru in Parampara. Accepting that Guru as good as Krishna. Acharyang mang vijaniyan navamanyeta karhichit namartya buddhya suyeta sarvadeva maya Guru. Lord Krishna states that one should accept the Acharya as good as myself and never disrespect him in any way. Never disrespect, insult. One should not consider him like an ordinary mortal, for he is the sum total of all the demigods. Now it may seem that this is too much praise, unrealistic. If the Guru walks, we walk, and he talks, and we talk, and he gets sick, and we get sick. So what's the big difference? The difference is that the Guru is Kshotriyang Brahmanishtam, is learned in the Vedic conclusion and fixed in that conclusion, and is therefore deputed by his Guru on behalf of Krishna to teach the Vedic knowledge. One is therefore enjoined to surrender to a Guru. And that surrender means to follow his instructions, to serve him, and to accept that my intelligence is not greater. It may be that in terms of intelligence quotients and these tests that they have, that the disciple is more intelligent than the Guru. That may possibly be. When it's said that the Guru is spiritually intelligent, that doesn't mean that he's expert in solving different riddles, by which one's mundane intelligence is tested.
Riddles?
Riddles means like quiz, quiz or something. If you have 3,000 tons of sand and then you take away 2/5 of that and then add 7 times more, like this kind of test, and then you have to give the answer. It is not qualification to be a Guru. That intelligence means Kshotriyang Brahmanishtam. He's heard the Vedic conclusion, and hearing he's heard the Vedic conclusion and is fixed in that conclusion. And hearing again doesn't mean the mundane process of accumulating knowledge. You see, even if you pass on Bhakti Shastri degree, that doesn't necessarily mean that you understand about Krishna. it is hoped and expected that one should do more than before he took that Bhakti Shastra course. But the real test is not what you write on the paper, but it's how you live your life. That knowledge in Shastra is supposed to guide us how to live our lives. So one who is accomplished in leading his life according to Shastra and accomplished in teaching others Shastra is deputed by his Guru to teach others Shastra. It's a very simple principle actually, that one has to find a competent teacher, surrender them and take instruction and follow. Now, actually in the Vedic tradition, it's not only that if you want to learn Krishna consciousness that you have to submit to a Guru. But all Vedic instruction in all departments, even secular knowledge, that requires that one should go to a Guru. Actually in Vedic culture or in Vedic education, there is no such thing as purely secular knowledge. There is no differentiation between religious and secular, because everything is religious. A society that separates the religious from the secular is automatically a non-religious society, because everything is coming from God and everything is connected with Him, and everything in life is meant to lead us towards Him. So in a truly religious culture, all activities are God-centered. So in Vedic culture, even to learn about medicine or astronomy or dancing or usage of weapons, all these subjects one has to go to a Guru. And the Guru teaches that all these abilities are coming from God before teaching every day the Supreme Lord or His delegated representatives are to be worshipped and prayed to. So one has to offer the highest respect to such gurus, even if they're just teaching you how to play a musical instrument. And again, musical instruments, that's meant for glorifying the Lord, not for anything else. But particularly when one comes to the transcendental platform, then he accepts a spiritual master, a guru who is to teach him directly about spiritual matters. So this is not like learning some skill like how to play an instrument or how to use bows and arrows. But taking to spiritual life means that this is just like we're offering in the fire, the ahuti, the offering. So in the same way it means offering one very self. So one submits oneself to a guru to be trained in how to always remember Krishna, become his devotee. So the process is actually very simple. There's nothing difficult in practicing Krishna consciousness, especially the process given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very simple. However, we tend to be weak and we tend to be devious. We tend to invent so many excuses and reasons not to be Krishna conscious. So taking to Krishna consciousness and surrendering to Guru means that we are prepared to give up this devious tendency with the resolve to become strong in Krishna consciousness. That Prabhupada was asked, I was just reading this morning, Prabhupada was asked on a television interview in America, what is the symptom of a Krishna conscious person? How can we recognize? Prabhupada said, a Krishna conscious person you can recognize because he's a perfect gentleman. And Prabhupada went on to explain that perfect gentleman means no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication. So we invite everyone, please come, join us and chant Hare Krishna and take Krishna Prasad. But when you want to be serious about solving all the problems of life and reviving one's original consciousness, one's Krishna consciousness, then you have to surrender to a Guru and take this vow, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, chant minimum 16 hours. So having taken this vow, we should understand what a vow means. Vow means no going back. In the modern age, people tend to be very whimsical. They don't know words like vow, responsibility, duty. Quite likely such words may even vanish from the dictionary quite soon. No one has any concept of such a thing. So hedonistic society means you just enjoy. So Krishna conscious movement is not meant to be influenced by the demoniac values of a degraded society. Therefore, this vow is to be taken. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. One has to be confident of following this, knowing that I'm very fallen, but I have to take strength from Guru and Krishna and follow this seriously, with no going back. We see it's a shameful thing. Some devotees take these vows and then again they go back. It means they may be weak or maybe not sincere or a combination of both. It may be difficult to follow these things in the present age. We live in an atmosphere which is simply full of all these sinful activities. Especially illicit sex is promoted everywhere. Strong, lusty atmosphere. And what to speak of us tiny little beings, we hear in Shastra of even great personalities like Brahma and Brihaspati becoming agitated by sexual desires and performing abominable activities. Of course, Brahma and Brihaspati, they went back. Despite their temporary fall downs, they went back and continued as Brahma and Brihaspati. But we see in the lives of devotees that if they slip into these degraded activities, it's very difficult for them to regain their standing in pure Krishna consciousness. And you could say it could happen to anyone at any time. Maya is so subtle that oftentimes we may not even recognize what is happening. That a man may be preaching to a woman and it's all very spiritual, and then all of a sudden the intelligence is lost and the material attachment becomes so strong that they fall down. But this, it actually is devastating in the spiritual life of those who fall into such a deviation. Mostly we don't see that devotees, they don't seem to be much attracted. In someone who's taken up devotional service, they don't generally fall into meat eating or gambling. Intoxication, sometimes. Illicit sex, fall down means they fall down into illicit sex. So Prabhupada, you see what condition he was preaching. Prabhupada is the most amazing thing, how he went to preach Krishna consciousness and he ended up preaching to the hippies. The Krishna consciousness is developed on the basis of leading a pure life. And the hippies, they were rebelling against all these social conventions of especially no illicit sex. And although Prabhupada was, many of the hippies, they thought, well, it's kind of nice, but this thing, no illicit sex, it actually turned a lot of people away. If Prabhupada had been more flexible on this particular rule, he could have had many more so-called followers. And we find in the beginning of the 21st century that now there are many Gaudiya Vaishnava groups spread all over the world, but they don't usually emphasize these principles so much, and they have many followers. They don't emphasize you have to chant 16 rounds, and they don't emphasize this, or you don't have to follow no illicit sex and all. You just become a disciple. That's all. And this way, their numbers increase greatly. But Prabhupada didn't compromise on these things. He always used to say that if you're selling diamonds, then you can't expect many customers. In fact, for selling diamonds, they have guards on the door. Not everyone's even allowed in. So we're preaching Krishna consciousness and inviting everyone to come. We don't have guards on the door, usually. But our safeguard to keep away nonsense people are 4 regulated principles. So we cannot compromise on these things. It may be that the devotee sometimes slips, that is not very good. But we cannot, for the sake of accommodating people on a lower platform, say that compromise is acceptable. So we should be very strict on this. These 4 regulated principles are not something that you simply say at a sacrifice, like some kind of ritual. It's something to be taken very seriously throughout life, because we practically see that devotees who are not strict in following these principles, their whole spiritual life is totally devastated. And then comes divorce and so many horrible problems. So even in householder life, one has to be very careful. Because if householders are not self-controlled, then the basis of their association becomes not how to serve Guru and Krishna, but how to serve each other's senses. But there's no satisfaction in that. So what happens is, just like the karmis, if you're not satisfied with one partner, then you start to look for another partner. Therefore Krishna warns, Trivithang narakasya idam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kamah krodhas tata lokas tasmat etat trayam tyajit. Krishna warns that there are 3 gates leading to hell, of which the first is lust. Lust anger and greed. Therefore these three should be given up by any intelligent person. And practically speaking, we see that people who are slaves of lust, they're already living in hell. And we've seen devotees who are practicing nicely, but then they become victims of lust, and their consciousness becomes hellish, and their faces, they cease to shine, and instead they become black. Now, initiation is a very joyful event. It means joyful life, moving forward towards the kingdom of ideal existence. Initiation means that we're going forward with great hope on the path back to Godhead, with great faith that Guru and Krishna will help us advance on that path. But at the same time, we have to realize that it is not a very cheap thing. We have to take it very seriously. We have to remain in the association of devotees. Always keep our vision focused on what is our goal. There's so many deviations. Maya is offering so many deviations. Even within our Krishna conscious movement, we see all different, many different kinds of ideas about what it means to practice Krishna consciousness. And all these ideas, except one, are completely useless. There's only one way to practice Krishna consciousness, and that's the way that Prabhupada taught us. Of course, there may be some flexibility within that one basic path that Prabhupada taught us. But this mixing up, or attempting to mix up Krishna consciousness with all New Age ideas, it doesn't work. Or trying to compromise it with sense gratification, it doesn't work. You end up with no Krishna consciousness, simply cheating ourselves. So we should remain very clearly focused by taking, at the time of initiation, taking a vow to follow this path very strictly, as we understand by reading Srila Prabhupada's books and associating with his strict followers. And then the process of initiation becomes meaningful, that now we're going straight forward on the path back to God. It's not, initiation means it's not done in a whimsical manner. I can try it out. Not like that. When you're actually ready to follow, then follow. You keep on following and go back to God. This is what initiation is meant for. So, Prabhupada once, he wrote that the initiation ceremony is a formality. Sometimes devotees misunderstand this to mean that it's not necessary. What Prabhupada meant when he said it's a formality is that initiation means a ceremony to... The ceremony doesn't make the commitment, but the commitment gives meaning to the ceremony, without which the ceremony is simply an empty show. So it's a formality in the sense that the essence of the initiation is not putting the ghee in the fire. This is also required according to Shastra, but what is really required is putting our lives into the fire of the Sankirtan Yoga. So Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Is there any question about this? It's all clear.
He would like to ask what it means, that flexibility in one proper understanding of Prabhupada's path.
That means that some devotees, they may be more attracted to deity worship, some may stress more on book production and distribution. It's not that everyone has to, it comes out like a robot, factory produced robot. But the basic principles and alright. Second. I can do this part now. You have one candidate for Harinam initiation and one for Brahminical initiation. So those taking Brahminical initiation, they don't have to vow anything because they already did it. Alright, so please come. Alright, that usually comes afterwards. You lost your voice even more than yesterday. Yeah. Now offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara. And the most merciful Giriraj. Yeah, you can go there and offer. So look, I guess there's no space. Anyway, you can do it just from here, I guess. Actually, the rule is you're supposed to offer obeisances very close to the devotee. Anyway, hands should go out in front. Otherwise, you're only 70% surrendered. What are you keeping in your pockets? No pockets. Not wearing any shirt. And nothing to hide. Alright, come and sit here. Alright, please tell me as best as you can. What are the 4 regulated principles you're supposed to follow? You can say in Czech or English, whatever language you like.
No illicit sex.
Okay, you should have understood that from the lecture.
Yeah. No illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, including eggs, fish, and no intoxication.
Alright, and minimum How many rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra do you have to chant every day?
16.
There should be.
Okay.
Should be some string here also. Yeah, you should put that on afterwards. Okay. That's for the principal 8 gopis to show that thing. Alright, so your name can be Sankirtan Das. Usually some name is given like Krishna, Madhava, Govinda, Gauranga, names like that. But Sankirtan is also non-different from Krishna. Kalikali Nam Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna has appeared, Krishna has descended into this world in this Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name. So Sankirtan Das means servant of Krishna in the form of his holy name. It means a servant of the Sankirtan mission. So that is what followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are supposed to be, followers of servants of the Sankirtan mission. It's a lifelong mission. By trying to fulfill the desire of the previous acharyas to spread Krishna consciousness. So go on serving the Sankirtan mission. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we'll begin. You ready to begin?
He purified everything.
Okay. I'd also like to announce here that, as we were saying, different people have different services within the Sankirtan mission. So, my main service for the last few years has been writing books to help promote the principles of the Sankirtan mission. So, I'm also trying to distribute those books. And many devotees have expressed that these books are helping them very much in their spiritual lives. So some of these books are available here, which you can, of course they're in English, not in Czech yet, but it's in fairly simple language, isn't it? What do you think? Whoever read them?
Yeah.
It's a pretty straightforward language. And there are some CDs there also of lectures. So after this is all over, you can all, if you like, take some books. You're going to have grains thrown by everyone, or just the few people here?
We have only for them, but it's enough so we can distribute it to all.
Yeah, maybe everyone can just do a little achaman and then...
Yeah.
You should do some prokshanam on this because you kicked it. Prokshanam means you sprinkle a little water on it. Okay, now it's pure again. Yeah, okay, that's nice. There should be no shortage of grains here. What grain is it?
I know the English term for it.